Covered in this week's San Diego Market Matters, the housing market is finally catching its breath. Breathe. Today, I'll dive into the latest market trends that are shaping up to redefine the landscape for both buyers and sellers across the US. There is pretty interesting data here to consider, especially with how mortgage rates did this last week. Then, lots of talk is going on about how prices are coming down, but we aren't seeing it here in San Diego.
What the heck?
So what are these areas people are referring to? Today, I'll dive into the falling home price trend in 42 US markets. Can you guess where most of those markets are? Stick around to find out. This and more covered here in this week's San Diego Market Matters, and I'm Karl Kyler, your San Diego Realtor. If you're enjoying these updates that I bring to you almost every week with these market reports, it would be great if you'd like and subscribe to the channel, and this could be your way of showing your support. And if you're thinking of selling or buying here in San Diego, I have my contact info in the description below. Let's connect and see how we can make your next move happen for you. Now, let's get into the good stuff. Quick market check-in, the PCE, the Personal Consumption Expenditures metric, the one that the Fed uses to measure inflation, reported a little over a week ago. Core PCE, which is PCE minus food and transportation due to the volatility, came in a tick higher at 2.8%, while regular PCE held at 2.5%. Now, the Fed's goal is to get PCE down to 2%, but we're really having a hard time sticking that 2.0 landing for longer than a month. This last week, major headlines were consumed with Liberation Day, the day President Trump put in place tariffs on over 150 countries. There's a ton of shock to the markets, and as a result, we're seeing lots of investors pull their money from stocks and invest in the bonds market. In addition, we saw mortgage rates inch their way down. Not quite to 6.5%, but it's pretty dang close. So the big question, how will tariffs affect the real estate market? Only time's gonna tell, and at this moment, things are a little fresh to really make an assessment. The good news here is that we're seeing what we need to in mortgage rates, them softening. This will allow more buyers to enter the market as well as sellers who wanna buy after they sell.
Oh, thank God.
Now, let's jump into data on how the national real estate market is doing. If you've been keeping an eye on the national housing market, you might have noticed something pretty interesting. Inventory levels are starting to look a lot healthier, and we're going to intentionally use that word healthier here. This past week alone, we saw an impressive leap in the number of single-family homes on the market, jump from 668,000 to 675,000. It's a 31% increase compared to last year, signaling a shift that spells more options and opportunities for buyers, and yes, a bit more competition for sellers. Now, focusing on the peaks and valleys of inventory, we're not only inching closer to last year's peak of 740,000, we're looking like we're definitely gonna surpass it. And with predictions hitting that the potential climb will be over 800,000 homes on the market by the end of this year. Remember the days of 2022 when we hit the bottom of 240,000? It feels like an era, especially when you compare it to the 836,000 homes that we saw at the end of March in 2019. But here's where it gets spicy for sellers, especially if you're in areas like San Diego. The surge in new listings, which hit about 68,000 this last week nationally, up from 60,000 last year, isn't just a number. It's a bat signal for those itching to sell, signaling that now might be the time to jump in if you want to ride the wave of this replenishing market.
Wow, the bat signal!
And if you're a buyer, this influx might mean more than having more homes to choose from. It's about timing and negotiation leverage. With homes sitting on the market a tad longer, the rush to make an offer might not need to be a sprint in most cases. Instead, you've got a moment to breathe, assess, and make your move with a bit more thought. As for national pending numbers, those are the homes that are accepting an offer. These are showing some really active growth, modeling almost exactly what happened last year, but less volume. This could really change if mortgage rates hit that 6.5% or lower in the next couple weeks as a result of the market volatility.
Please, 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 please.
Now let's chat about price reductions. In markets heating up with competition like Southwest Florida and Texas, sellers are nudging down prices to attract buyers. We're seeing about 35% of homes with price reductions, just a slight uptick from the usual 1/3. This is significant and interesting at the same time during this time of the year. The small shift reflects markets that are eager to move properties, but also recognizes the need to meet buyers halfway. And what about the future? As we look towards the mid-year, if mortgage rates keep improving like they did this last week, the selling season could extend into the summer months, keeping more buyers and more sellers engaged in the market. So what does this all boil down to? Well, I wanted to cover the national trends to give you a pulse of what is happening to the real estate market economy overall. Next week, once the San Diego data registers for the month of March, we will compare what is happening in San Diego with what we talked about in this episode. Now, let's cover our last topic on the 42 metros that are seeing negative gains and see where San Diego stands among them. In the ever-shifting landscape of the US housing market, while national home prices rose a modest 2.1% year over year from February 2024 to February 2025, again, nationally, not every market is feeling the heat. In fact, some are starting to cool off, and this is causing some panic and clickbait headlines. Among the 300 largest metros in the country, a notable 42 are seeing declines in home prices on the year-over-year basis. This is a jump from last month where we only had 31 markets reporting declines. Major players in these declines include Texas and Florida, with a notable presence from Louisiana and Arizona as well. Almost half the metros on this list of 42 are in Florida alone, 20 of them to be exact. 9 are in Texas, Louisiana, Arizona, and Colorado have 7 among them, and the rest are randomly spread out amongst other states. And to note, San Diego isn't on them, but you probably already knew that, especially if you're subscribed to my channel. These shifts are most pronounced in the Sun Belt regions, particularly around the Gulf and the Mountain West areas, which had previously seen major price surges during the pandemic housing boom. As the dust has settled and the pandemic-driven migration slows, these markets are adjusting, and the rapid rise in mortgage rates hasn't helped, making it tougher for local incomes to support previously frothy and inflated home prices. Well, here's a twist. While the West Coast sees a cooling in price growth, the Northeast is still clocking in radical price increases. The disparity is stark and poses a big question. Will the West Coast markets flatten out or even dip into negative growth in the near future, as in this year? While not immediately likely, especially if mortgage rates adjust downwards, it all hinges on inventory levels. If West Coast inventory continues to grow with unanswered pending sale growth, the flattening or negative growth will follow. And speaking of inventory, builders in regions with an excess are starting to cut deals, lowering net effective prices or offering other affordable adjustments to keep sales moving. This, in turn, cools the resale market as potential buyers opt for new homes with more competitive pricing. So what does this all mean for you? Whether you're buying, selling, or just watching the market, it's a mixed bag. San Diego's home demand is still pretty strong and will only get stronger with softening interest rates. It seems like finding a house on the market that's nice without 2 or more offers is like finding a needle in the haystack. I had a buyer recently compete with 10 other offers for a house in Del Cerro. We got the home, but holy smokes, 10 other offers in total. So take from that what you will. And that's a wrap for this week's San Diego Market Matters. Thanks for hanging with me in this video. If you enjoyed what I bring in these videos almost every week and haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so now. But if you are still to be convinced, check out some of my other content that I post. I'll post 2 videos here that might win you over. Go ahead and check either of those out. As always, I'm Karl Kyler, your San Diego Realtor. I'll see you in the next video.